I can't hear you.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Stuart, first of all, I want to wish you a rejuvenating and transformative trip.
Thank you. Thank you.
The question is, can you please talk about the role and use of prayer in our spiritual growth and connection with God?
Well, just the simple thing. One of the first things I teach people when they learn the exercise is they say inside themselves, "Please help me to open, to surrender." It's a prayer to grow spiritually. I mean, there's something in the Bible: "Ask and you will receive." You have to ask, and that need, for a spiritual life that comes from a deep place inside will, allow you to ask. Asking is praying. It doesn't have to be things from the Old Testament or New Testament. It could be your own, things that you create inside yourself in a way of asking for help from a higher force in the universe for you to grow. Prayer. So, I think it's a very important aspect. And extremely important before somebody develops a high degree of consciousness. Once the consciousness, the chakra system is developed in a human being, everything around you is sacred. Life is sacred. Everything around you is maybe not a prayer, but you recognize the truly sacred nature of all of God's manifestations around you. The good, the bad, what you like, what you don't like, it's all part of manifestation that is helping you to grow. If you see it that way, you understand, then, it in itself becomes a prayer, a way of learning how to develop yourself inside. Instead of being sucked into it and being a victim and being this or getting overly excited about things that eventually just fade into the past. We just learn, we grow, we keep our hearts open. There is no past, there's only this moment. And we let go of our experiences. We don't hold on to them. Because if you hold on to them, they'll never be the same as they were when you experience them in the moment. So one extraordinary experience is not something you hold on to. It gives you the strength to step into the next moment and have an extraordinary, you understand? And the next, and all of it is like a chain, it's like a mala with beads, a necklace with beads. All of it is connected in the evolution of one's consciousness. So prayer is very important. I think, I have things I say inside myself that are very significant, and they really help me to grow. And they're kind of like little prayers I say while I do my meditation. And they work. They've opened me. I've been doing this for a while, and they open me in a really deep place inside and allow the energy to, develop, all the, and overcome the obstacles and develop a chakra system which is really strong. So I have nothing against prayer. I have a lot against dogma. I have, prayer, no. Unique and wonderful expression of one's need to be with God. Nothing wrong with that. It's wonderful. Will it in itself give you a spiritual life? That I can't answer. I don't know. But will it help you to open inside so you can receive the energy of a higher nature? The Shakti, that energy that will help you have a spiritual life. That it will do. What will provide the spiritual life is receiving the grace of God, of spirit inside, taking it into the chakra system, developing that system inside. And it's in all religions, Look, when I was younger, I studied a lot of Kabbalah. And honestly, there's a whole thing called Sephiroth, and it's all about chakras. And those guys, Maimonides and these guys back in the 12th century, I think, I'm sure they were into some really profound form of meditation that allowed them to come up with that diagram, of the Shekhinah, the bride of God. All of that is in Hinduism, it's in Christianity, it's in every religion. When you get into the mystical aspects of religion, that's where a real prayer inside you will take you. And what comes back is the energy, the Shakti, the spirit that helps you develop a system inside that is strong enough to live with a more transcendental level of consciousness. It all works. And we just have to train ourselves in how to use it. Because, as soon as the class is over, if you're going to get caught up in dramas that are going on in the Ukraine and here and there and Russia and inflation and all the madness of the world, suddenly the whole class gets drained into that instead of building a system inside that can deal with inflation, that can deal with the stupidity of war and learn something from it. And, you build that system that really is balanced inside instead of being sucked into the madness of the world. So prayer is a very good thing. I use it. I mean, I don't use biblical prayers, but I create them as a way of asking for a higher connection and for the Shakti, the energy. I mean, my life, although I don't go anywhere, I'm here sitting in front of a computer with people on 4 continents now. It's extraordinary. And I have to get stronger because it's just going to keep growing. Yeah. And the only way I can get stronger to take on and do this situation in my life is I got to truly arrive at a place where I am connected to a higher source that nurtures my chakra system and helps me to grow. So I'm grateful to all of you for being here, because this is really honestly, I need to do this and I want to do this. When I was younger, I was caught up in money and this and that, and all kinds of, stuff. And money is important. And, and I discovered that if you serve God, it comes. It really comes. You don't become a Bezos kind of creature, but you get enough to live and do the service to a higher force, to God, to whatever one wants to call it, So prayer is very good. Try to find that need in yourself that creates your own unique voice. Otherwise, it becomes kind of old and platitudinous, and but that unique and spontaneous need inside you that will connect with will do an enormous amount to bring energy into your system that will make you stronger. Does anyone else have a question?
Thank you, Stuart. Easeful travels.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Does anyone else have a question I would like to ask? Okay. As I said yesterday, I have a question. Why are there no questions?
I have a question, Stuart. You forced me into it. I have a friend who's very seriously ill but doesn't do our work. And I would like to know how to be most helpful to her.
You know, Chris, I know about 20 people right now that are seriously ill.
Yeah.
And I just love them. I keep them in my heart. I try to share with them any wisdom I can share with them, try to nurture them with the energy that flows through me. But I've also learned, you know, a really important lesson in my life, because I've been through, I mean, look, I've written books about it. I've been through so much with people getting sick, people dying, people, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I've learned that one of the biggest things I can do for anybody is to let go of them, not to choke them, not to try to stuff what I do down their throat. Just nurture them and just love them unconditionally.
Good.
You know, I mean, look, one day we're all born, one day we leave the world, you know, there's nothing any of us can do about it. Those are guarantees, you know, if you're born, you're going to die. Something's going to take you. In this course, this thing between birth and death, there's something called unconditional love. And that unconditional love enables you to nurture and support people that are going through a difficult time. Not stuffing in their face things you think they say. Just love them and let that love really nurture them and let what's supposed to happen.
Thank you.
I mean, I've been through so much of that in my life that I get it every day. Somebody get it, say, I got this problem, I got that problem, you know, and I in order to deal with all of that, the love in my heart has to be unconditional. And another thing I've discovered, you know, look, I used to have it was like a bakery years ago. I would have people lined up out the door of my loft waiting to come for healings. And I would tell every single person that came for a healing, you know, you're being taught through God and through this illness to have a spiritual life. The real healing is twofold: becoming a happy person and having a spiritual life. 98% of the people that used to come to me, all they wanted was another 10 years of life.
Yeah.
10 years of mostly miserable life. You understand?
Yeah.
And I finally said, Stuart, I can't interfere with birth. I can't interfere with death. If somebody wants to use their illness to develop a deeper connection with God, to grow spiritually, they have me 1,000,000%. But if somebody wants to add another 3 or 4 idiotic years to a life that brought on the illness in the first place, because they're afraid to die. The fear of death is just not having a spiritual life. It's mostly the fear of death is mostly the fear of life, the fear of really living. So I learned this years ago. I cannot interfere with God's work in the world. And that's birth, and it's also leaving the world. But if somebody wants to use it, like you, Chris, you had cancer when I first, you know,
Yes.
you got healed and you have
Yes.
used it to have an amazing life in service of God. Okay. That to me was worth every effort in having to help you get healed.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I mean this, you know, and I'm not here to judge people, but I'm not here to be used badly by people. And I used to tell this to everyone who came to my loft, you know, to get a healing. You're being taught something from God. Learn the lesson. If you develop a spiritual life inside you, the illness is going to go away.
Thank you. It's very beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. I know this is rough and it's hard to talk about this, and this is something rough because we all have family, we have this, it breaks our heart.
Yeah.
With people. I remember when my mother died, I'll never forget it. The day before she died, I was sitting in her bedroom. And this happened to me a couple of times. Once with my mother and once with a woman named Eleanor Olson, who I'll never forget. And I'm sitting there doing a really deep meditation. My mother is in the last throes of cancer, suffering, and suddenly the whole room just lit up. My father, the soul of my father, was sitting at the end of her bed. And he said, I'm waiting. We got to move on. Never forget that.
Oh.
Next day, she left. And I'll never forget the story with Eleanor Olson. She was a student of mine who used to be she's practically the person who brought Tibetan art to the West. Eleanor Olson. She used to be the curator of Tibetan art at the Newark Museum. And she used to come into my gallery. She was a student of Rudy's. And one day she came in and she used to come to my classes. And she was an old woman. She was probably about 80 years old, 78 years old. And she said to me, Stuart, I have a terminal cancer. Can you do anything to help me? So I said to her, Eleanor, yes, come. I've learned healing from Rudy. He basically took away my hands and said, you will be a healer. And I went through a lot of experiences with him for that to happen. And she came and started doing the healing work. Honestly, within a month, the cancer went into complete remission. I mean, people were blown away. The whole Tibetan art scene there, they got whacked, whoa. And anyway, about a year later, she came to me, and I'll never forget it. She said, Stuart, I don't have the energy anymore to do this. And she told me she really wanted to pass on. She wanted to move on. So I started changing the work. Instead of bringing her, healing her, the healing was to bring her to the Bardo realm, which is that realm in Tibetan Buddhism between this life and the next life. And, give her an education. And I spent like 4 months doing this with her, maybe once or twice a week. And I'll never forget the day before she died, Eleanor, I was sitting in her bedroom and she wouldn't let anybody come into her bedroom except for me. And I was sitting there and meditating with her. And she'd been lying there literally for days in a fetal position, curled up in bed, had never said a word to anybody. And I'm sitting there and meditating with her. She uncurled, she sat up in the bed, she looked me right in the face and she said, thank you. Went back into that fetal position. And I think she lived maybe another 6 hours, 8 hours. She passed on. The last thing she ever said. That's grace of God. My mother's passing was the grace of God. Nothing wrong with passing. The kind of lives most people live, look, you come back and try it again, next time maybe you'll have a spiritual life, Does anyone else have a question you would like to ask? Okay, just go to my website. There's all this stuff there. This lecture is there. Will be there when Ellie downloads or uploads or whatever it's called on the website. And it's like an education in this meditation. What's there? There's 500 to 600 different videos of all aspects of the meditation that I teach there. And then there's that writing that I do, which is getting really interesting, I mean, if somebody asked me yesterday if I would do an article on Rudy, how I met him, I have it in my books, but he said, no, in the way you're writing now, Stuart, I think you could do something even better than what's in your books, So I said, okay, I'll do it when I get back, maybe from my trip. I'll do something like that. There's all kinds of stuff there that could probably help you in your spiritual practice, and I recommend it. You know, does anyone else have a question they would like to ask?
I just want to say that I will miss you. I just want to say that I will miss you.
Mhm.
I didn't understand you.
I just wanted to say that I will miss you.
Thank you, dear. I miss you too. You know, you're a new student in this, but you're a very ancient soul, dear. Really, I don't know if you know how ancient your soul is and how evolved your soul is inside you. So God bless you. I'll miss you too. Does anyone else have a question or a statement or something? Okay. Then God bless you. I will be gone for a little over 2 weeks. You're all in my heart. Take you all with me. I will do meditation wherever I am. Do your meditation. You'll be able to tune into it. Do it at home. Get a picture of a teacher and just sit with the picture. So thank you. And God bless you all for being in my life.
Thank you.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you when I get back. Thank you.
Thank you,
Stuart.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful time.
Ciao.